Alrighty, I'd like to call the Finance and Emergency Services Committee to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? If there are none. Review of items not listed on the agenda. There's one addendum. Okay. We're going to start this morning into the budget. We're going to start with page 44, blue pages, front of the book. That's operating budget. We're going to start with facilities so Kara can go back to work, because she can't wait to go back to work. So we're going to 44 blue, front of the book. Everybody got it? There you go. Oh. Yep. Is that the bottom of the page that we're seeing? We're missing another line, right? Yeah, now we can't see anything, Debbie. Thanks a lot. He was here. Well, Gary was here too. Debbie, is that the bottom of the page? I don't think that's the bottom of the page.
Missing a line.
That's just after. So we're going to blue, front of the book, blue pages, page number 44, Public Works Facilities. 44, Gary Lynn, blue. We just started, yeah. I did, yes, just now. Okay, that, oh. That's good. That's great. Thanks, Catalina. Okay, 44 blue, front of the book. This is operating budget, facilities. Welcome, Karen and Ben. So 44 is summary page. So you want to start right off with 46, Goodwood Community Center. Just jump in with any questions you may have. Is there anything you want to say, Karen? Is there anything you have to explain to us?
Well,
or Ben?
what we did was, last year there was about $40,000 worth of upgrades to all of these halls combined. So what we did was we kept that $40,000 and spread it and put it in the halls where we thought it would be best used. So as you go through, you'll notice some halls are down a fair bit and other halls are up a fair bit, but it's pretty close to being neutral on that $40,000 upgrade part of the budget.
Pam, go ahead.
Just a question, like the grass cutting, is it because there's some of the bills that aren't in for that it's so low?
They
I
should be
believe
in by
so.
now.
I believe so. We'll check that.
Okay, that was just, and the repairs and the maintenance, is there anything major that's planned for next year?
We're going to do the roll-up in the bar area, and we're going to hopefully buy a new bar cooler. So that's about $6,300 for both of those.
Okay. Actually, I've got a contact. I'm still trying to get a hold of him to see whether we can get...
The cooler?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just another question. Just another question, as far as, like, yesterday, I put forward to the wish list, I said that the hall board was gonna pay for the study,
Okay?
and that you had mentioned to me, before that you had that in line for, on the wish list for 2018, and then 2019, to follow up and possibly do acoustics, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you were allowing $20,000 because we don't know how much it's gonna cost. It could be less, it could be a little bit more, it could be about that. Is there a possibility, like, just to ask on the wish list thing?
We're not on the wish list yet, so
Okay.
that's the end of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Bart?
Hi Karen,
Hi.
we spoke earlier in the year about automation for our thermostats. Have we looked into that, or have we done that yet?
We've looked into it. The problem is, we like to set the temperature and leave it, because if we get going in and every facility turning it down and then turning it up and turning it down and turning it up, you're gonna forget one time, and then you're gonna get calls that it's too cold when you do rent it. And I just think if it was on a fixed schedule where you could fix it and say every Saturday come on at this time, every Sunday come on at that time, it'd be different. But because the rentals are all over the place, it's very hard to automate.
Okay, with the system that I've suggested, and there's lots, but the one that I'm speaking of, you can still adjust it locally, and then you can remotely turn it down.
Typically, we don't allow people to adjust them on site. They all have covers on them, they're all locked.
You mean you can do them from here?
You can do them from
Right. Wherever you have access to a
here.
computer, yeah.
You can do it from anywhere, and you can also do it there. So if you know, we were in the music hall for budget last year, and we were all cold, and then we had to find degrees. It would prevent those types of calls, so that people could change the temperature for 2 degrees, but then you'd have it automatically turn itself back down.
So obviously it hasn't been looked
It hasn't been
into, so
looked
Karen or
I will.
Ben will
I'm
look
sorry,
into it
Dave,
this year.
Yeah.
I will, yep.
One of your
Yeah.
neighbors sells a competing product to what I'm thinking of, Ecobee made in Canada. So
Oh,
the guy that lives,
that's Scott?
I think so.
Yep, okay.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, thanks. Through you guys, on your revenue side, you've got a forecast of 11 for this year and 12 for next year. Is that a hope that there's gonna be more rentals, or is it the actual cost per rental that's going up? How are you allowing?
Rentals go up in September of every year 3%, so I'm just,
That's
trying to-
based on?
yes.
Okay. Is there any opportunities, I know we talk about this every year, to boost rentals, or is it just a factor of you never know who's gonna rent it, or is it
you don't know.
you never know? Okay.
Actually, that hall though, next year, keep in mind, the Lions are moving in there as well, so that orange hall won't be rented out, so there probably will be some benefit to the Goodwood Hall from
Okay.
rentals.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions on Goodwood, Mayor O'Connor?
It's the new ActiveNet program, the new ActiveNet program that we have for booking facilities, which I'm going to be starting in January. And there's a fee for every booking that is put through ActiveNet for the facilities. And that figure is just based on a guesstimate of how many bookings will be done through
It's based on a percentage.
percentage.
In place. Okay.
Any other questions on Goodwood? Move to, Sanford. Did you have a
We have, Ed and John Cooper look after Goodwood. So when Ed goes down and cleans, that's just part of his salary. We have Ray Yule in Sanford, and he is the custodian, and he makes, an hourly rate. Yes. Mhm.
In Sanford?
No,
No, in Goodwood.
just in Goodwood.
'Cause you-
That's why Goodwood's lower than the rest of them. That's what I,
yeah.
that's what I said. Goodwood will be less than the rest of them.
Good.
It was based on the tender results that we got in our tender last fall.
Yes.
The doors, the automatic doors.
No.
There will be shortly.
They will be. They're getting put in this year. Yeah. So we don't need. They were, and then, we decided to do Goodwood and Zephyr, so that money was there, and now Sanford doors are gonna be done this year, so we won't need to do them next year. We were gonna do them next year. No?
No,
No, 'cause
there's
there's $6,000 difference between 17 and 18.
So there'll be a $6,000, so you're looking at actual year-to-date and the budget figures. This year. Yes. That's about what the automatic doors cost.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's coming out of the 18?
No, sorry, I think when you say this year's budget, I'm talking 17. Okay, that's where we're, so the doors are in 17. In 18.
Yes. This week. Yeah. Mhm.
Other questions of Sanford? Siloam's gone. Music hall. Questions? What's included in the repairs and maintenance roughly in the, music hall, Karen?
For 2000.
Are these doors done at the music hall? Have we done that part? No?
No.
No, they're still...
No, if you look on the, underneath, there's a transfer to reserve, the
Yeah.
$8,000.
Yeah.
That's continually being put in until, I'm sorry, I don't know, Pat, what year, a couple of years from now.
Okay.
And then the new front doors will be put on.
Okay. Any questions on the music hall? Counselor Hyatt?
Just one on rental. How much different is it since the vacation, I guess is the word, the not having the dance school in there? Has there been a major shift on time allocations, or is it kind of leveled out now that the dust has settled?
Yeah, it's leveled out. It's
It's leveled
still
out.
very busy.
So what capacity over and above that 50,000 would there be, I guess, on rental space? Is there any left?
I don't understand.
Or are we basically at max at $50,000 income?
Oh, no, there's still weeks and days that can be rented.
That can be rented?
But basically from September right till June, it's fairly booked. I mean, I have some
Yeah,
pockets
so
at
all the
March
prime
break.
time spots are gone?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're almost at capacity then for that time slot for income, is that what you're basically saying? Okay, thanks, Karen.
Any other questions of the music hall? Zephyr Hall? Questions? Seniors? Senior Center?
The main jump is the washroom installation for the youth center. I believe, isn't it?
No. So, there is,
Was that under?
That may not
That
have
was-
been
That was
communicated.
maybe under capital.
That might
was-
not have been communicated to
that
them
wa-
already. I don't know if they knew that or not.
so we have, new bathroom countertop in the ladies' washroom. We have motion sensor cameras for the outside of the building. And then there's a $3,500 fee for the youth setup for next year. So that equals $11,000. Okay.
The main hall? Yep.
So there is no washroom under repairs and maintenance, or there is?
There is some repairs in the ladies' washroom.
But, so you don't have a new washroom in there?
When there's it's not a new washroom, and then there's $3,500 for the youth center, what Ed has to do there for next year, into the youth center, like he's putting in a kitchen
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a washroom.
Washroom cost is gonna be a lot more money than 3,000.
Oh, it was, for
And I
sure.
and it was communicated to Ed that we were holding off on the washroom
Yeah,
in the youth center space and just using the main washroom
right.
and try to make it work with scheduling. And then if need be, then we'll put it in the budget for 2019.
Just, go ahead, Mayor Connor. I was gonna... Six?
We'll double check, but
Particularly since our costs are only $1,263 year to date, so that'd be half a year, right? Okay, so you gotta check that out?
yeah, we'll check it.
Check it out.
Well, I'm not sure on the, I gotta go back to repairs and maintenance, so it was budgeted 16, so we pretty much doubled the budget for repairs and maintenance at the senior center. So you have an additional $11,000 in there because of the youth center, is that what you're
No,
saying? Oh,
no,
okay.
I have new bathroom.
Yeah, and the ladies' room, yeah.
Yep, and I have motion sensor cameras on the outside for $5,000.
Okay,
And then the youth center is
$3,500,
$3,500. And I
okay.
think that's just the kitchen room.
okay. All right, any other questions on the, senior center? Huh? So are you gonna have enough money in there to paint it? You're gonna have to go to a tender or not, I guess, eh? Gary Lynn's asking to have it painted, so.
We'll have another look at that.
Will you, and see if you can fit it in?
And include the painting.
Okay. Counselor High?
Just on the income side, the revenue side, on the contributions, does that reflect that new contract with the seniors? It does?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the seniors? Okay, we'll go to the rental property Brock Street. This probably won't be applicable at all, I take it. The, page 52, is the rental property Brock Street, you're there. But that'll be gone, right? So I don't know what's, there's nothing in here. Okay, are there any questions, other questions on the facilities operating? All right, we're just gonna go to the, capital. for what page is that? Page 74, that's the blue pages at the back of the book. Almost the last blue page. It is the last blue page. Oh. Okay, so this is, you can see where some of it's funded from other. The addition, obviously, for the Goodwood Hall is coming out of the sale of the Orange Hall. That's where the 200,000 is coming from. And the balance is tax levy. Any questions of these three for 2018? Three projects. Councillor Hyatt.
When you say reserve fund, Donna, is that the dollar per charge fund at the music hall, or is that somewhere else?
No, that's correct. That's a music hall improvement
Music hall improvement fund? Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the music hall capital? No questions? Sure, go ahead.
There's an item there, replacing the main floor chairs at the music hall. Is that gonna be done completely in 2018? Because I was informed by a member of the music hall board that they're gonna do it fits and starts, instead of doing it all at once.
Can you answer that, Karen?
No, they're going to do them all at once.
All at
We're
once.
going to do them all at once.
Any other questions of facilities, Karen? No? Thanks, Karen. So we're gonna go back to operating public works. That's the front of the book in the blue. And we'll start right after the summary page. Welcome, Bill. So we'll go to 28, that's the, first one is administration. Page 28. Questions? Actually, what I should do now, just so you know, one thing we should just discuss briefly before I get into the rest of these budgets, is the, addendum that was supplied yesterday. And all this is just sort of, and I hope everybody had a chance to read it, it really just says what the impact of Bill 148 is on our finances. And hope everybody read it and got to see all the little details. Are there any questions for Donna on that report? Everybody's clear? The answers are all there? So probably for the press, I guess very briefly, the impact, I just have to find it here. The impact for the township on Bill 168 is it'll result in additional costs of about $63,000 in 2018. And rather than me reading all this to you, Roger, I'll just give this, rather than reading this report to you, I'll just hand you a copy of this report, so you can get the information. Do you have it already? You got it? Great, okay. Then I won't go through all these numbers. All right, great, good. Jack, go ahead, please.
On reading that, it looks like the greatest impact is gonna be on the camps. So I guess what would probably happen there to offset it, the price of camping might have to go up.
I think that's actually reflected in the budget already. They did a slight increase already in the budget. And Amanda, when she comes in, she'll talk to that when we deal with that portion of it. Alrighty, so we're at administration, page 28, Public Works. Debbie,
Are you gonna deal with the report, or just?
do you want me to would somebody like to make a motion to receive it? Is that what we'll do now? Somebody, Councillor Barton, motion to receive it. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. No questions on administration? Councillor Barton, go ahead. Yeah. I don't know. Can you turn your mic on, Ben, please, or Bill?
3.
Okay.
No other questions on administration? Alrighty. I think you'll note on this budget, this is the biggest part of our expenditure, one of the biggest parts of our expenditures, and obviously they're coming in at, pretty close to the cost of living in total. We appreciate that. Overhead, page 29. Mayor O'Connor?
That's because one of our staff members was on, part of it was because he's on short-term disability, and I believe that's a reflection of that.
It includes sick time, bereavement. Overhead includes sick time, bereavement, union negotiations.
Stat holidays also.
Stat holidays. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh. There's, Mayor O'Connor, there's, someone expected to go on sick leave this year, we won't mention any names, so that's been included in there. There is someone will be on sick leave, be put on sick leave this year, and that's been included in the budget. Do you wanna explain this, Don? I'm gonna get Donna to answer that, okay? Mayor O'Connor, go ahead.
Okay, so you'll see on page 29, you'll see that there's wages, benefits, and uniforms, and you'll see that on the revenue line, the payroll burden, so all the wages and the benefits get allocated out to the different work areas and vehicles. So in the end, all you have left in the overhead department is the uniforms.
So you would take some of that payroll burden, the $199,000, and allocate it to garage or wherever else?
Yes,
And that
it gets
becomes-
allocated to all the...
And then it becomes income?
Yes.
Okay. From 18 to 19.
Yeah, the payroll burden is based on the wages and the benefits. So basically, it's the expense, but then all that expense will be allocated out.
So if the wages go up, the payroll burden goes up. Okay. Yes.
It is, yeah, it
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Councilor Barton, yeah.
So the overhead, the way I understand it, this is the cost to run benefits to keep all of our public works employees, not benefits, but sick time, uniforms, things like that. This is the fund that pays for that. And then it's, the revenue side is also from public works, but we fund this through a line item on multiple other
Right.
budgets.
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was clear.
That's why the revenue's so close to the expenditure, with the exception of uniforms. Okay, garage, any questions? Yes. Mayor O'Connor.
Salaries? That can't be 100% the employee that works in the garage.
No, not. The mechanic's time gets charged out through
Through the
the
report?
equipment on the next page, on the next 2 pages.
Okay.
So if you have an expense on a piece of equipment, that's where his salary goes to, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Propane heating, obviously it's something we're adding this year
Yes, the new shop,
in the new
the new
shop?
building, yep.
Okay.
And under cell phones, it's gone up, considerably from, it's gone up $2,000. So I just question that.
I believe that's because, my phone and Ben's phone previously were under two trucks, 201 and 202, but I think we've just combined them all together in this one line item, so they're not split out under different vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hyatt?
Just under office expenses, gents. You budget for 4, then 55, then 55, then 55, and then the maximum that you've ever spent is 30. Is there any ability to reduce that 55 down? Or do you anticipate you're actually going to need to spend it? It's the last line there.
There'll likely be some things we need to get for the new building.
Like
We'll look
machinery or
at,
something?
we'll look at the 5,500 next year.
Yeah, it's just, if you're not spending it, obviously you need to start looking at readjusting that number, so, thank you.
Just one other quick question. Is actual year-to-date, when does that take us to in all of these?
11/29/2017, Mayor O'Connor, I think that's
Yeah.
right up to that date.
But just one thing, it could,
Sorry?
sorry, it could be missing, we still may have another 2 to 3 months worth of expenses to come,
Right,
depending on when we receive the invoice.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions on garage? I move on to vehicle expenses.
Question again?
Mayor O'Connor, go ahead.
Under vehicles, where they're showing nothing, that, I'm interpreting that as we got rid of the vehicle, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, under vehicle 216, we apparently got rid of it a while ago, but we're still showing an expense under actual,
Oh, it's back.
pardon me?
It's back. We just got, that's our brand new plow truck we just got about a month ago. So it's unit 216. So we recycled the numbers. We let, when the equipment sold off, we let it lie for a couple of years and then we reused that number.
Oh, okay.
So that's a brand new truck we just got a month ago.
Oh, all right. Just so that, anybody would know this, but the fourth line down on page 32, I think there's just a spelling.
We don't
Should
have a
be a
wear
water.
tank. We don't have a wear tank.
No, I didn't think we did, so,
Under water tank, the second, vehicle 12-253 should be water, not wear. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, this is, my first budget, we didn't have any restriction on what the vehicles are, and this is much better. The one that we still don't have anywhere to know what it is. Is there any way to do that in the future where, our vehicle numbers are, 17, 216?
Isn't that the number?
This general indication.
That's,
I think that
that's
is
what
the
they
year.
are.
The number 13,
That,
the number...
so number 1 would be number 13201,
Is it
2013. The first two numbers are the last two numbers of the year that it was bought.
The year it was bought or the year of the vehicle?
Of the vehicle.
Of the vehicle, okay.
Any other questions on the vehicle expenses? Let's go to 33, this is pumping station. You're obviously did something this year to it and doing something more to it next year, Ben.
Correct. Two check valves needed to be replaced. They were sticking and the pump was running on.
How often do we does that sort of thing come up? We had budgeted, obviously, $1,500, $1,000, so is that something that comes up every 20 years, every 10 years, every 2 years?
It's about every 15 years,
Is it?
almost to the month.
So, just out of curiosity, so I guess that's something as we go forward, are you putting a bit away every year, Ben, when you're doing that?
No,
Because maybe we should
so,
start.
This year, it was the two check valves we replaced. Next year, we're gonna rebuild one of the pumps, because it's on a, it's a 15-year thing too. And then the following year, we're gonna rebuild the other pump. So,
You know,
by 2020, we should be back down to where we are previously, 1,500, 2,000.
okay. Anything, Councillor Hyatt?
Just a passing thought, Ben. You gave us a report several months ago about creating one of these, utilities for certain things. Would this fall under that kind of topic? I think you were talking about stormwater management or something. This kind of falls, to me, it falls in that kind of...
It would all depend on if that's what you wanted to do, if you decided to do a stormwater utility, if you wanted to include the pumping station in that.
You could, yeah.
You maybe could do that.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I noticed that the expense for the telephone is down. Is this thing monitored with internet or anything, so if there's a malfunction and we don't burn it out?
It's monitored with a GSM unit. There's no phone there.
Oh, so then
There
it...
used
so
to be a
cellular.
phone. It's cell, with
Okay.
a GSM unit.
Good. It's not a line item, but it's in another budget somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Any other questions on the pumping station, 33? No? Councillor Ballinger?
Well, a couple of things. We had an extremely wet summer and spring and fall. So every time it rains, the pump goes on. So the wetter the year, the more it'll run. And then there's also some hydro there where, because these check valves were open all the time, it was running on. And it'll run for, excuse me, it'll run for, I think, about 2 or 3 hours before I get the call. You could.
Any other questions on the pumping station? All right, let's go to road maintenance, page 34. That's a summary. Let's go on to, 35. Bridges and culverts.
Questions?
Mayor O'Connor.
Benefits. So we go from 11,000 in 17 to 10,000 in 18 and back up to 11,000 in
Do you have an answer
19.
to that, Donna?
So I guess what's
Donna has an answer.
what's going on there?
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so, when we did the budget last year, we had anticipated, the preliminary information that we had back from our benefits provider is that our rates were gonna increase significantly. And then when the rate increases came in earlier this year, they were actually lower than we had planned.
Okay,
So that's why they've gone down.
that's good news.
Yes, it was good news.
Under contracted maintenance, why are we putting it up by $7,000?
From 45 to 52.
Oh, because, hydro seeding is one of the big drivers there, and it's been going up, as well as we've been doing, I know this, having some problems with some storm sewer. So, part of that is, we have to bring in a video, because we can't actually get down and crawl through these storm sewers, so we've been having to hire a video truck. So, first of all, they have to bring in the big flusher truck, flush out the storm system that we're having problems with, and then they gotta put the video camera down and see what the issue is down there.
Okay.
So, it's just it's an added cost that we haven't really accounted for in past years. And then, obviously, hydro seeding, it's going up too, so it's kind of
Right.
part and parcel
So
with all
hydro
that.
seeding and storm sewer video truck.
Yeah,
basically,
and
is the-
flushing.
And flushing.
And can I just give a little preamble here with, as we go through all of these? Every year we kinda go through this, but you'll see the wages and benefits in the payroll burden. So all of those, as we go through all of these sheets, they will all add up to a total at the end, and that total, is the reflection of the salaries of all the guys out at the depot. So it just depending on what year or how the year progresses, I may, for instance, do more ditching in one year, and we might do a little less in another job. So some of these might be high and others might be low, but in the end, they all balance out,
Okay,
so.
so
I
that's why there's nothing then on, 'cause my next question was, why is there no numbers under payroll burden?
That's actually gonna, Donna's gonna check that, 'cause I think that's an error.
That's an error?
We think it's an error, yeah.
Okay. Under dam inspections, if I look what we did this, up to in 17, we only spent 4,000 of, 28,000, and yet we've got 27,000 in for both, 18 and 19. What are we doing
There's some invoices I haven't got yet for this year.
Okay, so do we do dam inspections every year?
Yes.
How many dams do we do?
3.
3 dams? And what ones are they?
Electric light and one in the preserve.
Didn't,
Elgin. Elgin Pond, the electric light pond, and the one in the preserve.
okay, I thought the one in the preserve went out.
We fixed it.
Pardon?
It was fixed.
It was
repaired,
fixed, so
yeah.
we've got a pond back in there then too?
You had a pond back the same year it went out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on bridges and culverts, Councillor Barton?
I wouldn't worry about that.
This is just a general public works.
Don't worry about it.
Will there be one page, I haven't noticed it yet, where all the salaries of all public works employees are on one page, or no? Do we ever bring
No.
that together?
It's on the summary page, right?
No. There's no page
Yeah.
where everybody's salary is there.
So,
And part of the reason is because every spring, Donna has to report to the province. It's called the Financial Information Return. So the way, there's certain questions that they ask about costs to maintain gravel roads, costs to maintain paved roads, costs to maintain this. So we sort of have this operating budget broken out so that we can just go in and pick the number. Whereas if we had one number for wages, it would be very difficult to sort that all out in the spring.
Okay.
And split it all up. You'd have to go back through everything.
okay. The complicated thing for us is that we don't know that your total cost of wages, might have been, I'm just gonna throw numbers out of the, 1.5 million in 2007, and this year you're 2.2. Like,
No, Billy,
because there's so many different pockets, there's no way.
Billy answered that a few minutes ago. He said some of the wages are up in the operating budget, some of them are down. But at the end, the only wages that are in there are the wages that we need to cover the guys. So it didn't go up, the wages didn't go up 10%. The wages only went up what they need to go up,
What was our increase?
1.25.
1.2 this year?
something like that.
But we may have added staff or subtracted
No,
staff. There's no pocket that we see.
I
that-
have to,
No staff.
I would come to council if I had to hire extra staff, and there's no extra staff in this.
And remember, the Public Works is contracted to union, right? So
Yeah,
that's fixed.
no, and I realize that, it's just, if there's overtime, if there's not, we don't actually see what total wages are. We see it, that we spent, $122,000 on gravel road wages this year, or whatever that number is. We just don't ever see it in one file.
Okay.
I
Any
can
other-
maybe get you that number if you want it.
Be easier than me looking through and.
Yeah,
trying to find it.
okay, I'll get Gail to run that.
Any other questions on bridges and culverts?
Just on the dams, a question more. We don't have control basically over Elgin Pond or Electric Lake Pond, it's Oceans and Fisheries. So do we get any grants or any monies for them for
Nope.
maintaining the dam?
Nope.
So what
And
happens if
I
we-
have more control than you think.
Pardon me?
I have more control over those dams than you
Then-
think. If I
then-
need to lower them for a storm coming or whatever, I just lower them. I don't,
No, but my point is to repair a dam is gonna be very costly.
absolutely.
And there is no money provincially or federally?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, if it ever got to the point where you needed to replace one, then you, or do a major repair on one, you would wait for an infrastructure grant like the culvert, so to speak, and you'd apply for a grant at that time.
Okay, so when the
But
dam...
there's nothing and there's nothing at the federal or the provincial level where they have a pot of money sitting there waiting for somebody to need it for a dam.
So they don't look at budgets the same way I could answer my own question, okay, so I guess what I'm asking then, because I didn't realize that we had corrected the preserve, budget when it went out. So what did it cost us to put that back in?
Oh, I'm not sure. We did send the province to Bill.
Pam, why don't you go for a few minutes? Okay. I just worry because that's a huge cost if one of those things go out.
So, can I add to that?
The dam at Elgin Pond is fairly new.
I can
in-
remember when that was done.
I think it was done in the mid-eighties.
It was.
84, 85, somewhere in there, so it's fairly new.
So who owns the dam?
We did.
We own the dam.
Okay. It's interesting, just a few years ago, I got involved with one up in Baldwin, and they said that there's 1,000 privately owned dams in the province of Ontario.
Be
You own the
amazed.
dam, you're responsible for the downflow and what's behind entirely. It's terrible. Who would ever buy a property with a dam on it? How scary. Go ahead. Dam question.
It would also be the municipality's choice if they wanted to remove the dam.
You would have to go through a process.
But, I mean, if
Yep.
funds were a difficult thing in the future, the municipality
Absolutely.
may decide to take the dam out.
In fact,
And then it would revert back to an online,
Conservation Authority, DFO, M&R, all would be supportive of taking a dam out, getting rid of the ponds, and having a creek run through.
Well, you know
Coldwell
what, the
Meadow.
day they put their name on the ballot, and
I
our
agree.
answer
I
will
know.
to the public, we'll let that happen.
Alrighty, any other questions on bridges and culverts? No dam questions? Okay. On to roadside maintenance.
Under tree planting, the contract maintenance, is that checking the trees? Is that what that means?
You go.
Nope. The tree planting is planting the replacement trees. And it's mainly due to that emerald ash borer. That's why it's been so high in
When are we
Okay,
done?
past.
so that
Just a minute.
contracted maintenance is for the emerald ash borer.
And
Uh,
others.
And others.
Anything we cut down, we replace in town.
Okay.
Street trees.
So we have about 100 ash trees left in town to go.
In town.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna see that number coming down eventually, or is that where it's gonna stay?
Yes, the tree planting, we did lower it 10 next year and
Yeah,
another 10 the following year,
so
so.
it should come
Yes,
down.
as well as the contracted is still, we're holding strong on that right now, because even though we've been through town, there's a lot of rural trees that I'm sure you guys have seen out in your travels that are a problem that we can't tackle. We have to contract out.
Okay.
So, that's why we're holding that for a couple more years. And then, once we get through this, then it'll go back to normal.
So, if I could just
Go
continue
on.
my questioning, why are we cutting back on tree planting versus maintaining it?
No, we're not cutting back. Because there's been a big blip in the radar with all these ash trees, so that's why the tree planting went up, to reflect that, and then it'll come back down to the way we had it.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you go along the roads and see the number of huge trees that have to be taken down or will be taken down in the next couple of years because of their age, like, I think we need to really watch that, because, I look at, on the 7th as an example, or going across Ashworth Road is another huge example of, you know, how trees are falling down. We need to just be careful that we have money that, we have to have tree cover.
So we have never planted trees out in the country. This is really all a reflection of what is going on in town. So if council wants to start planting trees out in the country, then that's fine.
I don't think we've had to, Ben, in the past, because we've had tremendous tree cover.
Yep.
But you can see those trees are maturing now, and they're old, and they're falling down or being taken down. So all I'm saying is putting a flag up, saying that I think that we have to be careful. Instead of reducing that, that might have to stay at a level until we can plant some of these trees that have been removed.
So
It's not a problem for this year, but I'd certainly, you know, next year that somebody would look at it and increase it again until we have the canopies that we used to have.
Councillor Barton?
Thanks. Couple things. Many municipalities are watering their trees with like a green bag at the base of each tree. Are they doing that just because they want to burn money, or are they getting better outcomes? Do you know?
We don't have a lot of problems with tree watering. If we started out, because a lot of the people in town will look after them. If we started out in the country where nobody has a hose long enough to get to them, that's something that we might consider.
Okay. All right, and then one other question. It wasn't that long ago that I believe the township planted trees along the 6th concession. 'Cause they're right across our property on the 6th. Does anyone remember that? Like, so, we've got property at Zephyrside Road on the 6th, and there was maple trees planted along there by the township.
That was quite a while ago. We planted some 22 years ago when I first got here, and then they just, and I think it was part of a Conservation Authority grant or something at the time.
Oh, okay.
But we haven't planted out in the rural areas for years.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Questions on debris and pickup. Again, the wages, and I can't believe it, like, this is almost a full-time job.
It is.
When you look at that, but then if you look at the vehicle cost, and I know, I'm only comparing it to, this actual, okay, of 217. So, look at 16,000. Almost 50% of the cost of the wages. Is that right? How do you figure that? Or 16%, you could say, vehicle costs are $16,750, and yet the wages to pick the debris up is $47. Like, are those factual numbers? Like, what are we charging for vehicles? I guess that's the bottom line.
It's an hourly rate. Every every type of vehicle has their own hourly rate. And that would include, the hourly rate would be, generally speaking, would be high enough to cover the cost of the repairs of the vehicle, gas and oil.
But still it poses the question, we spent $27,000 in 16, 27 so far in 18, but we're still at $46,000 and $47,000 in the budget.
Like, we're not picking up debris now, are we? Or are
Yes.
we?
Picking it up today, as a matter of fact. Yep.
But still, there's an extra $20,000 in wages, and that's what I'm looking at.
But
From
that,
actuals.
that just goes back to
November, though.
if it, yeah, all the wages as a whole.
If I could, we can reduce that.
I know.
We'll just have to add it somewhere else.
No, my question is not on the wages. I'm not
I know.
disputing the wages.
I know, but
It's-
we have two different conversations here. Pat's talking about the wages and you're talking
I'm
about...
talking about vehicle
vehicles.
costs.
So,
I
we're-
just think vehicle costs, that's half of a cost of a pickup truck? 16,000, 32,000 for a pickup?
Yep.
So what I'm saying is we're charging the cost, half the cost of a new pickup truck just to pick up debris. Like, I think that figure is wrong.
We'll have a look.
And at the same time, I know that you have to allocate it to another department, the total's still gonna be the same, but it just looks, it looks off having it look like we're budgeting $50,000 in wages just to pick up debris. Any other questions, Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, just on that point, do you have a dedicated crew that goes around and does this, or do you just do it as you see it, or as it's reported in? How do you?
Yeah, we kinda, well, it just depends on what it is.
Just, 'cause
some of
I
the-
saw you one day, just basically stop your truck, got out with your shovel and buried a squirrel or something that got run over.
Yeah, you have to do what you have to do
So,
sometimes.
Could've been a problem. So this isn't a formalized kind of crew that goes out and deals with this, or?
Yeah,
or
it's
is it?
not always the same two guys. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes I have to send out a backhoe, like we had to pick up a boat a couple of weeks ago.
So it's kind of like an ad hoc?
Yeah, it just all depends what it is.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Barton?
Thanks. So, just confirming we're talking about the right budget here, the garbage cans along Brock Street, does that come out of this budget?
No, actually, the garbage cans along Brock Street downtown
Yeah.
are actually picked up by the region's contractor, and the region pays for that.
Okay. We keep on hearing complaints from people like Paul Minchell that those garbage cans are constantly full. Who do we talk to make sure that that pickup changes?
Well, maybe you could send it in.
There's, the pickup chain is not gonna change. So, that I can tell you. If you want more, if you want, say, 5 days a week, we can do that, but the township will be paying for 3. They pick them up, so the garbage pickup in town is Tuesdays and Fridays. So, first thing, Tuesday morning, the contractor will go through, empty all the garbage cans. First thing Friday morning, they'll go through and empty all the garbage cans. So, if you want anything more than that, we would have to pay for it.
Okay.
Any other do you have a question?
Well, if they're overfull, if they're constantly overfull like we're hearing, then we need to find a solution, and budget's probably a decent time to do that. Am I the only one who hears this, or no?
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Who's been telling you that one?
Paul Minchell.
Because I talked to his assistant, and we had solved that a couple months ago, and I told her if there was any problems, call me back.
Oh,
And I
okay.
haven't heard anything since. Because we talked about that, we talked about different types of cans and that, and I haven't heard, so.
Okay,
If
good.
this is, in my mind, it's been fixed. I don't know if you've heard anything, Jack, on the region side of it?
No, only thing I heard was the guy from Lindsay was standing, Sandwich Apartment Building, and 2 big bags of garbage come out the top window. That's a good way to,
That we can't fix in the budget,
No, I know
okay?
you can't fix. It's the only thing I've heard about the garbage lately.
Okay,
Are
fair
there any
enough.
other questions of debris and, litter pickup? No? Let's go on to, hardtop maintenance, page 37. Questions? Mayor O'Connor? Could you turn your mic on, Mayor O'Connor? It must have come on.
Under sweeping, flushing, and cleaning, just a minute, I can't see it. I think again, it comes to, my question and my lack of understanding. If you look at the wages, of 36,540, and then the payroll burden of 8,376, that's 25%, right?
Benefits and pay.
I know
Benefits and payroll should be about 45 to 50%
of the payroll.
of the pay, of the wages.
Okay. And again, the vehicle cost, that's a new truck. Or is that the I mean, I look at 45,000, and I'm not disputing that, number, because we're very close to it in the past. But that's worked out on an hourly basis for the sweeper, and I take it's the sweeper, not the vehicle.
It's the sweeper and the truck,
Sweeper.
single axle truck that goes along with it.
Okay, so vehicle cost includes sweeper and truck.
And we have to hand sweep too, so that'll include a half-ton or three-quarter ton on occasion, plus the little trackless sweeper too. So that's all part of that.
Okay, and the trackless. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Councilor Barton?
Yeah, I'm looking under patching and sealing. We were 118,000 this year, which is, way up. Year to date. Is that because of weather?
Absolutely.
So the potholes were,
All the wet
Well-
weather and that freeze-thaw business we were experiencing last winter, it just creates havoc for us trying to patch potholes.
Also, one quick question, under water, why are we, budgeting a water price when we've never used one?
The region's supposed to bill us back, but they've never done that.
Oh, so we just keep our mouth
Just
quiet?
keep,
Okay.
we'll just keep quiet about that.
Yeah. Sorry I asked that question.
Can we back up that tape?
There's a,
Any other questions on
No.
these hardtop maintenance categories? Did you have one, Gordon? Did you have your hand up? No? Shoulder maintenance, questions? No? All right, let's go to hardtop ditching, next page. Any of those three, any questions?
Hardtop ditching, why is it so low under benefits for this year?
There's still a month to go, right? You're talking about benefits?
I'm talking
From
about
10-5, oh, sorry.
What I'm saying is that we've got 10,582 was our actual last year, and now we're going back down to 7,007.
In the budget, yeah, okay.
Right, so what I'm questioning, why is that?
portion of the wages.
So if our actual wages for hardtop ditching, do we not think we're going to be doing as much this year?
It's very hard to say.
It just depends on the year,
Okay.
because it's sort of all relative with all of these. It's hard to nail down an exact figure of,
Some of it's complaint driven,
yeah.
too.
Okay. So then I go down to, vehicle costs, and 2017, we budgeted 22,000, and we came in at 31,000, and it could be more, because again, we've got a couple, only increasing it by 25. And I guess what I'm questioning there is that a fair number to put in?
Yeah, it's sort of all proportional to the wages.
Well, I understand that, but if it costs you 31,000, we're over this year, so are we saying we're not gonna do as much next year? That's all I'm asking, I guess.
They're budgeting less wages next year, less benefits next year, and a lower vehicle cost next year because they're planning to do less next year. If the three
Okay, that's
go
fine.
together, I believe is what
I
you're
understand
saying,
that,
right?
yeah.
Pavement preservation, any questions? Catch basins?
Guess, could it not be a lower number?
It's at 52, the actual is 31.
Pardon me?
I'm just confirming what you're saying, the budget's 52 and the actual was 31.
Well, I just look under contract and maintenance,
There's still some invoices coming in for that one.
understand that, but if you look back in the history, 32,000 in 216, and we used 32,000 in 17, so I'm gonna say that we'll probably be up 32,000 in this year, so I'm just saying, is that something that could be looked at for, or do you think that's a reasonable, obviously you think it's reasonable, so that's why it's there. But we've never got in close to 32,000 yet.
To 52, yeah.
Okay.
So that's something we can look at, it's obviously $20,000 high in both years. Yeah. Donna's asking, can you bring that contract maintenance down 10,000 to 22?
We'll have a look.
Yep.
Would you? Thank you. Next page, loose top maintenance, patching and grading. This one's a little bit clearer.
So again, I'm gonna hit on 81,000 for a vehicle. And so it's double your wages.
She's on page 40, loose top ditching. The last category.
So that would be a grade L, two tandem trucks.
Possibly a flagging crew,
Pardon me?
possibly a flagging crew also.
Wouldn't that come under wages, not vehicles?
No, they would have trucks there, 'cause they have to get there.
So just to be clear on that, so you could be sending out 3, 4 vehicles at a time, let's say to do on this one project, or 2 or 3, and they're all gonna be charging. So this vehicle is X, this vehicle is Y, this vehicle is Z,
Correct.
and they're all adding up, and these 3 coming together would add up to this 81,000.
Mhm.
Correct. So, some of our operations are more equipment intensive than others.
We've obviously laid more soil this year than we anticipated. We budgeted 7,500 and we're already at 12,000.
Uh,
Is that sod or gravel?
oh, you're at gravel. Yeah, you're at gravel. We combated, we've had a lot of, washouts with all this rain.
Okay.
And we've been trying to stabilize some of the hills, so that's kind of a reflection of that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on loose top maintenance? Councilor Barton?
Yeah, this is another general one. Again, it's hard for us to understand where you're going when we don't know how many hours each year you're working in each area. Again, going forward, it might be interesting and easier for you to justify what you've done if you talked about how many hours of ditching you did. So it's like, you know, this year we ditched for 222 hours, which added to this value. We're budgeting for about the same number of hours next year. With our burdens, our costs of doing business are going up by 3%. It's easier for us to justify your numbers. Can you follow my train of thought there? I know it's not always easy.
Or you could tell us what the hourly expense is, would be the same thing, I guess. Any other questions on loose top maintenance? No? Let's move on to, winter control.
No.
Always a mystery.
I just look at the vehicle costs again. We've been constantly budgeting 285, it was 238 and 16. It's 213 and 17. Should we take that down a couple thousand? I don't want you to take anything down and then say, you know, it should have been higher. But I just look at that, we've been 40,000 less than that in the past.
So I guess at 213, you still have another month to go, so.
Well, if you look
But
at
it still leaves you another 30 or 40,000 extra.
if you look at 216, you're 40,000 or more. All I'm saying is, are we going to, we're not going to be doing anything, like all the bills would have been, are we patrolling now?
So you would change it somewhere else.
We're still patrolling? Okay, so,
We start patrol November 1st and we go to the middle of April.
Okay. So by Donna's just telling me, Mayor O'Connor, that by changing that number, if you look at the very end, what page is that, 30? So by changing that number, it really won't matter, because all they've done is they've taken the total cost of vehicle costs, and they've just allocated different accounts. So if the total cost of the vehicle cost remains the same in the total budget. So if you take the 285 there, it's just gonna come out of it's gonna be added to another account somewhere else to come up with a total of 600 and, what was the number? $678,000 was the actual cost.
how do you then, to you, Donna, how do you, or maybe it's to the, to Ben and to Bill, how do you charge your vehicles? Like, do you just, I'm not being facetious or trying to be smart, but do you just put a number there that you think is close, or do you sit down and actually figure out what a vehicle cost per hour is? 'Cause I would think that would be pretty difficult.
It is difficult. It is difficult. So typically what would happen is, over the years, as we buy new vehicles, we tend to increase the hourly rate a bit, just because of gas and oil. We don't change them any truck, it stays the same for the whole time. So we might raise it $4 or $5 or $6 an hour for a new truck compared to an old truck. So at the end of the day, they sort of all wash out. You spend less on a new truck in the beginning, but more at the end.
Okay.
So, and we always have a mix of old and new, so that's sort of what we've been doing the last little while. There was a time, probably 10 years ago, where the rental rates were actually too low, and they weren't covering the cost. And so over 3 years, we increased the rental rates 10% every year, to get up to a point where it was sort of a wash between the rental rates and the gas, the oil, and the repairs.
Okay, so under the, and that's fair. Under the vehicle costs then in winter control, can you just tell me what all vehicles could that could be the person that's out just in a half-ton truck?
It would be
So it's a half-ton?
patrolling,
Yeah,
it would be every truck that goes out the gate in a snowstorm, or,
but this
Or
is
is-
winter control.
plow trucks.
So this is
Loaders.
winter, do we not have a thing for winter maintenance?
That's winter control, it's winter maintenance. It's the same.
Okay. All right, then that makes more sense.
So we might have 13 pieces of equipment on the road in one day for
So it's
12,
plows and
13 hours a day.
everything. Okay. I was looking at winter control being the person that goes out at 4 o'clock in the morning and then
No.
sends the equipment out.
It's in there, but it's
Okay.
only a small part of
Alright.
it.
Yeah, sidewalk maintenance. I thought we were talking that we might have to do more sidewalks this year. That's
Not this year.
the next.
It's not panning out this year, although apparently, the new standard is on the minister's desk, I found out last week. And, I guess he has some questions of OGRA that they're sort of going back and forth right now. So maybe by next year, it might happen. I haven't budgeted for that because really it's only 2 months.
Okay. Oh, but it could go into effect.
It would have to go, if we were gonna do it, there'd have to be a fairly big jump next year.
Okay. And it could go into effect for January 1, 2018?
It wouldn't go into effect for January 1. It would probably go into effect like November 1st
Oh, okay.
Next year.
next year, or they may wait until the spring of the following year. I don't know.
Okay. Thanks.
Further question?
Go ahead.
Under contracted maintenance, should that figure not be higher?
Under sidewalk maintenance?
Under sidewalk maintenance, we went over by 12,000 in, 16. We went over so far in 17 by 3,000, by, 6,000. I'm just questioning whether in fact that's a good number.
Okay, we'll check that. That's,
I think that that's
That's
a
based
low
on
number.
that's also based on the tenders
Yes.
too, so, well, we can easily check that.
Well, that's even, if the sidewalk tenders came in as high as the snow plowing came in, then certainly that number needs to be looked at.
Councillor Barton?
I thought our own guys did our sidewalks. Is that contracted out?
A bit of both. A bit of both.
Okay, so the Toronto Street section, is that the part that's contracted out?
We do Toronto Street.
Okay.
There's some of the rural stuff in the hamlets is what we contract out.
Okay.
It's been, in the last 2 years, it's been around 18,000, so I think that number needs to be looked at, for sure.
Councillor Hyatt?
Let me just ask, is there a significant difference in the price of calcium chloride versus the sodium chloride, do you know? The reason I'm asking that is, I've read, whether it's true or not, that it's supposed to be less corrosive and better for the environment than using the old sodium chloride. So if there's a huge difference in price, obviously it would make sense to stay with what we have, but have you ever investigated that, or? Maybe I'm throwing a
Actually,
left curve here.
The salt on sidewalks, we don't use salt on sidewalks. We use
I'm just
calcium
looking at your
chloride?
sand and silt.
We use-
category.
We use magnesium chloride, actually.
Magnesium chloride? Okay. Is there a huge difference in cost difference between that and
It's more expensive, but we find it doesn't track into the stores and stain
Yeah.
carpets and
Okay.
stuff like salt does.
So you have looked at it, all right, thank you.
And it has a lower melting temperature too.
I just actually gave Ben last week, something for easy reading, about 110 pages on salt and, beet juice and all those little things. We had an excellent report at Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority last week, and it was, we'll chat about it as we said, Ben, so.
Well, I
Some
just know-
interesting stats.
I
very
just know the big push was on for phosphorus, but now it's gonna be the chlorides, because
That's exactly what
They're
happens.
just sitting in the lakes and rivers too, so.
It's, a few years ago, Environment Canada was, on the verge of declaring salt toxic, and, which would complicate all of our lives immensely if they had of. What they decided was they would make us, report our salt usage every year. So, every spring, Joanne has to get online and fill out how many tons of salt we used, how many tons of magnesium chloride we used, how many liters of calcium chloride we used, and report it to Environment Canada. And any municipality in Canada that uses more than 500 tons of salt has to do that report.
And what's interesting is the municipalities are actually doing a very good job. They reported that the Upper Canada Mall uses half the salt the entire town of Aurora uses in a year, just for Upper Canada Mall. So private sector hasn't caught on to the salt issue. Municipalities are doing a very good job, and regions are, but private sector is the one that's really causing the problem. We're done with winter control. Safety devices. Streetlights and signals.
We don't have any signals anymore, but we have to do a street light patrol twice a year. I think we do it twice a year.
Once a year.
We have to do it once a year. Yep. We have to go out at night to do it, and Steve does it. The working foreman, Steve. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on safety devices?
Yes, contracted maintenance. To me, it looks high.
Actually, was Dean budgeting 45 and 17 year to date? Next page, other, our favorite category.
Under safety devices, please.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Engineering studies, what is this?
Go ahead.
From time to time, Wellwood Drive is an example from last year. Or not, but entering like Canadian Tire Walmart off of Toronto Street onto Wellwood, we had that all laid out, and that's what that is.
That's the engineering?
We had a consultant do the line painting, or not do the line painting, but do the layout for the line painting.
But is that not region?
No.
47?
No, on to Wellwood.
On to Wellwood, sorry.
Councillor Hyatt?
Can I finish?
And then,
Go ahead.
in addition to that, we put that, one year we put the crosswalk in on Plank Street between the two schools. I had somebody design that too.
So it's line markings, basically?
Basically.
Okay. Under contracted maintenance, my comment about it under streetlights, that it could be cut. Under safety devices, I'm saying that maybe it should be a bit higher, because we budgeted 45 and 16, and it came in at 56. We budgeted 55 and 17, it came in at 69. So, I'm just saying, look at that, because you might want to do some different things between those two, okay?
Okay. Other, page 43. Did you have a question? Go ahead, Gordon.
We had your consultant in here a couple of weeks ago talking about, looking at the intersections and stuff in town. Have you had a chance to talk more about that and price it out? It's not reflected in this at all?
I believe it's on the wish list.
It's on the wish list?
Yep.
Thank you.
Page 43, other. Questions?
banners, what's furnishings?
If we always keep a bench and a couple of garbage cans at the shop in case we need them. In case we need to add one, or in case
Some people
some
back into them.
back into them, or they vandalize them.
Okay. And, I just wanna say, under the cenotaph rehabilitation, there's been nothing spent this year. But there should be flowers put there. And I don't know whose budget that comes under, but I asked repeatedly this summer to get planters put in there, and nothing was done. So can that be put underneath that, or do I have to put it in somewhere else? There.
I know the horticultural person in Bob's budget looks after the flower beds, so maybe that would be the
Okay.
place to put that.
So then we don't really, what's this 2,000 for then?
A couple of years ago in 16, I had somebody come in and clean the cenotaph itself, take all the black off it and repoint the grout and everything like that, so.
So,
If there's any repairs to the two lights that shine up on it, or the cenotaph, we'll put it,
All right.
that's where that would go.
okay, so it's lighting basically. All right, and under road watch, do we still have a road watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie's still out there.
Okay. I have one under crossing guards as well. Salaries and wages, just the increase, in 17, we went from a budget of 63, to 70, sorry, we're at 63,000, and, sorry, let me start again. We budgeted 75 in 217, and then we budgeted 79, and then in 19, we're doing 85, and that's just the increase, wage increase?
Bill 148,
Yeah, okay,
mainly.
right,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine, I didn't know whether we'd added another person or not.
No.
Councillor Barton?
Ben, just on that, I know we've struggled to keep crossing guards. Are we paying enough to get people for that job? I know it's been a struggle to hire. Is it a wage thing? Are people not willing to do it for the amount of money, or is it because of the hours? What's the issue there, from what you understand?
Personally, I believe it's mainly because of the hours, and it breaks your day up. You know, it's a part-time job, but you gotta go to the part-time job 3 times a day. And it's very difficult to get somebody, even retired, that wants to break up your day. It's every day of the week for minimum wage.
Okay.
And it's not a very nice job to do.
Okay, just follow
You have
up.
another question? Yeah.
With some automation, could we eliminate some of those costs? So with, a push button where lights came on or something, is there a way to, certainly not for the busiest intersections, but some of the milder ones? Is there a policy in place that says we can't do that?
There is no policy, but I will tell you, when the lights went in at Quaker Village Drive, I tried to take the crossing guard away, and I think that's the only time in 22 years I filled the council chambers. It was not very well received.
I thought I read an email this week that we're required to provide a crossing guard. That might have been someone from the public wrote that, that was in it, but. So we're not required to provide a crossing guard at a school? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to get rid of them. I don't wanna fill the place either. But Ben, are we required to, somebody, I guess it was one of the letters
Well,
from one of the residents.
you're not required to do it at every intersection, I believe. They're mainly on regional roads, except for, Third and Plank and at the public school. I think the rest of them are on regional roads. So, it has to do with traffic volumes mainly.
Okay. Any other questions on the crossing guards?
Just so everyone's aware, we had a request from the Legion, and it's been forwarded to the wish list for $10,000 to deal with the, pole banners for Remembrance Day, so that doesn't show up in Ben's budget. And the other thing is, just a quick question, the light that was agreed to by council yesterday for the Sam Sharp statue downtown, the new light, that could probably come out of the Cenotaph budget?
I don't believe they were asking for the light, they were asking us to pay the hydro.
Hydro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is
So
$50 a year, I think, right?
would you
Which
pay
is
that out of
odd.
there, or you just pay it out?
No, there's already an account in my street lighting account
Okay.
for that, box that they're coming out of, so.
Great, no other questions on crossing guards? All right, I'm gonna flip to, Ben has one other one on the pink page, it's page 87. This is the, township properties and other projects, we'll just clear that one up while we're here.
What page?
Pink, page 87, operating. Do you have it, Ben? Hopefully you do. And the category is township property and other projects. This is operating.
I don't have it.
I don't either.
Should be in the front, actually, right before the yellow tab.
I don't have it.
Here, Ben, do you want mine?
Right before the tab.
I'll take Dave's, maybe it'll stop him from asking questions. Or unless he stands here. Thanks. Okay.
So what are we talking about
This
on
is township properties and other projects, page 87.
Yeah,
Watershed Committee, Stormwater Management,
Master plans.
what's pond
parking lots, snow removal.
what's pond monitoring mean? Do you watch the water go over the dam?
Every year I have a consultant do half the stormwater management ponds, and they just inspect them and make sure that everything's looking the way it should. And based on the report, I can do a bit of maintenance on them. It's a requirement of the certificate of approval for each of the ponds.
Again, I cannot believe that we're jumping from 9,000 to 22,000 for parking lots.
So, just so you know, a lot of it, some of that is, we switched Centennial Park parking lot, the new part and the old part, from us doing it with sand and salt because we couldn't get there fast enough in the morning, to the contractor doing it with salt. So that's part of that. And it's twice the size, or,
Well, I know, but to go from 9,000 to 22,000,
It's on the page, right?
you know, that's a huge increase. So Centennial Park, parking lot went from us,
but there's a lot of other parking lots in there as well. River Valley, 2 on Albert Street, Church Street.
Well, you know what, this is an awful thing to maybe even think about, but sometimes I think that people think government has an empty pocket, or has a, not an empty, we do have empty pockets, but
Bottomless is the word you were
bottomless
looking
pockets. Because when you look at that, for the life of me, I can't justify that number. I mean, it is what it is. It went out to tender, we picked the lowest tender, but I think that we seriously have to look at it. We might be better off hiring somebody, as a part-time person in the winter to do our snow plowing in these parking lots and these sidewalks and that sort of thing. Something that in the future we might have to look at, because when you see increases like that, that's a hard pill for me to swallow.
I understand that, but the flip side of it is, they have 2 or 3 guys and pieces of equipment coming in to do it. And the problem is, they all have to be done by 8 o'clock in the morning.
But
or
they're not now.
Or before. I know the guy that started, he had some issues the first time or 2, but I think we got him straightened out. He's much better the second go-around. It's a lot of it is just the drivers not necessarily knowing which parking lots they have to go to, but it's a lot of work to get them all done by 8 or 8:30 in the morning. And that's not even all of them. Like, the senior center is in their budget, the arena's in that budget. All the rural halls, that's all in their budget. So,
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Ballinger?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ben, when I look at that for snow removal, is that on a contract or is that on an hourly basis? The only reason I'm saying that is if you look at the climate, you look at the snow now, and it's getting wetter, warmer, wilder. Like, there's less snow. So I'm just wondering, do we take a contract out at a certain date to a certain date, or do we pay them an hourly wage?
1st of November till the end of April. On a contract, not hourly.
So snow or no snow, we still get...
Snow or no snow. And the way they bid it, some years they win, some years they don't make anything.
Except on salt, they do well on salt.
No, the salt's included.
Oh, is it? in their
I
contract?
don't pay them
You don't pay extra
by
for
the
salt?
ton for salt.
Wow, okay,
It's just too hard to keep track of.
I wondered, okay. No other questions? I wanna just go through, do you have another question, Mayor O'Connor?
Are we still on operating?
Operating,
Okay, under other expenses, are we on that page yet?
no, we're at township property, other projects, is that what you meant?
Okay, well, I'm on the next page, so,
The pink one? That's not Ben, right? That's not Ben, Mayor.
okay.
Just a quick thing, if you don't mind me, I just wanna go through a couple of things very quickly since we're here. One thing is that, we meet with all the departments before we come into this budget process. And, Ingrid, Donna, and myself meet with them, we go through their budgets and we try to find numbers. In years past, we've sometimes found $200,000 or $300,000 that we pulled out of the budget before it even arrived here. So this year, we took out $136,832 this year is what we took out before we got here. So, most of the departments have done a pretty good job of getting their budget to the core. We took out some things, sometimes it was just reallocating them, but we took out $136,000 before we got here. But a couple things that are impacting our budget this year, and I'll just go through the three items in particular. One of them is the OMPF funding, so we lost $79,000 this year from OMPF funding. That's probably, I think next year we'll lose about 25,000, and that's about it, or 40,000 next year, and then we're done. OMPF funding goes down to a minimum of 400,000, and now we're down to, I think we're at 440,000 or something. So, this year we lost $79,000 to OMPF funding. The Bill 148, as we described earlier today, that impacted our budget by about $63,000, which is 0.5%. And of course, we have an asset preservation fund that we've had going on for every year, and this year it's 1% of our budget, and it is $119,000 goes into our asset preservation fund this year. So as we started today, a total, including the asset preservation fund, of 1%. We're at 2.19% plus the asset preservation fund of 1%. So we're pretty close to the bottom here right now, but I just want to let you know that's where we're at so far. And a big part of that, obviously, is the Works Department budget. So we're at 2.19% right now, plus the 1% asset preservation fund, and we've lost $79,000 of the OMPF, and the impact of Bill 148 is $63,000, just so you know. So actually, if you did the math, the OMPF and the Bill 148 are about half of our tax increase this year so far. Okay, so where we're going to go now is we're going to go to the blue pages at the back. It's going to be Capital, Works Department, page 42, well 41, you can look at that quickly if you like. It's sort of the summary page. And to get right into the projects, you can go to page 43. Or 44. Okay, 44. Start with roads. Well, this is capital. Yeah, page 44, capital. Back of the book, blue pages. Keep going. Long way to go. Long way to go. Gotta keep clicking. There should be two budgets. One budget's operating, the other budget's... Are they together in yours? Okay. That was pubic. Donna. Page 44. There it is, top of the page. That's it. Councillor Hyatt.
Before we actually get into the numbers, guys, could you just explain to everybody what would qualify as a gas tax project? What would be an OCIF project? Because a lot of these, some of the funding is from those sources. Could you sort of demonstrate the differences, or what would qualify and what would not?
So a gas tax would, a grind and pave, repave would be a gas tax. Pulverizing, stabilization, and repaving would be a gas tax project. OCIF, I believe just about any roads project would cover OCIF. And then the APR is the Asset Preservation Plan, which, Preservation Reserve, which is just about everything in that pot for roads as well.
So from that, are there roads that lend themselves more to funding from certain sources, or is it kind of a random allocation?
Yes, you're correct in saying that some some methods of rehabilitation lend themselves to a gas tax, and some lend themselves to OCIF or tax levy or asset preservation.
Okay,
yes.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so we're on 44 under roads, capital. Any questions? 2018 projects. Mayor O'Connor? Can you turn your mic on, Mayor O'Connor, please? Thank you.
Maple Street Catch Basin and lead, and then it says APR. What's that mean?
Asset preservation.
Reserve.
reserve.
Pardon me?
Asset preservation reserve. It's a reserve account.
Oh, okay, thank you. So this is, what's LEAD mean?
It's the, sort of the outlet for the catch basin. Gonna
Okay.
take it around the corner and outlet it onto, Cedar Street.
Okay, so is this what we talked about?
Yes.
And this is what the engineer is recommending?
Well, and that's what I'm recommending.
Okay.
I was
You
the
think
one.
this is gonna work?
It'll work. If,
Okay. Main Street, okay, so that's all I have on that on that sheet.
Counselor Ballinger?
Yeah, just to follow up with Ben on Maple Street. First off, we didn't make the top or the worst roads this year on, for Maple Street. Just give me an idea, Ben, so I understand it. The young lad, the Hutchison boy, was here the other night, and he was looking at the, out in the lobby there, looking at, the budget. And he said to me, Jack, what's happening on Maple Street? I said, I don't know. I'll know when we get to the budget. So if you can just explain to me how it works and how you're gonna try and catch this water, I'd appreciate it.
so we're gonna put a shallow ditch in down the side of his house on Maple Street. Put a catch basin in the, sort of in the middle of it to catch the water, and then we're gonna pipe it around the corner down Cemetery Road, or not Cemetery Road, Cedar Street. There's a storm sewer pipe there that, we'll outfall it into.
Ben, I have a quick question. You know, under the qualifications order for gas tax, whatever, that 50,000 put to East Gwillimbury, that might be grind and resurface, right? So I just wonder why, is there a way we can keep that out of tax levy and use a grant for some of that money we're giving East Gwillimbury? But we put it away to a reserve, but it's actually being spent on something that would qualify for a gas tax.
The gas tax has to be sort of spent the year that you say it's gonna be
Is
spent.
that also applicable to OCIF? Have to be spent on?
I believe so.
So here we are putting
So just so that everybody understands, the gas tax, in this budget, the gas tax is maxed out, the OCIF funding's maxed out, and the asset preservation reserve is maxed out.
I understand, but we take 50,000 every year and put it away for the East Gwillimbury Town Line.
Yep.
And I'm just saying, that we're actually, it could qualify for a couple of those grants probably, but yet we're taking it out of tax levy. Is there a way we can do that differently so it's not in tax levy and coming out of grants? We're using it for the same purpose.
Not on an ongoing basis. If council decides to stop contributing the 50,000 in tax levy, and then wait until, East Gwillimbury decides they're gonna redo it, then you'll have to come up with,
I understand that's.
with everything at the same time.
I get it.
That's the only other way.
Okay. All right.
What would be the project cost? Do you have any idea overall?
There's a bridge that needs to be either rehabilitated or replaced, plus the road, anywhere between $1 million and $2 million.
So that's substantial.
And it'd be, like, half of that would be ours.
Thanks.
Any other, questions on the roads? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I'm looking at, under gravel for Old Stover Road between 47 and the 6th. What does that project include? What are we doing there?
Just, so, these gravel projects, this is the second year of the gravel. Next year, we'll put a surface treatment on it. So
Okay.
it's a 3-year rotation.
Okay,
And then after that, there's another set of roads that, according to the schedule that was approved by council, they get their turn.
Okay. Now, for that surface treatment, would be asphalt or chip and tar, or what will that be?
A surface treatment is a tar and chip.
Okay.
Double surface treatment.
So we gravel for 2 years,
Yeah,
and then put the slurry seal on top of the
Yeah.
blacktop.
okay. And you said a double...
Double surface treatment plus a slurry seal.
Okay. Thanks.
Mayor O'Connor?
What did we get this year from the aggregate grant, or the, it's not a grant, aggregate?
Royalties, that's, it was about 160,000, I think.
Oh, it keeps decreasing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
160?
184 last year, and then I think it went down to 170 something.
Yeah.
Where is that number?
Right there on page 44. That's why it's an in and an out.
So, but we've got an increase, is that with, didn't we get an increase? What are we up to now? It doesn't start till 19? Okay, questions? Let's go to, page 45.
Question on streetlights in Quaker Village.
Go ahead, Mary
Will
O'Connor.
$50,000 cover all of them, or 70, I mean?
No, it's 50.
50, sorry.
So, we've been putting 50,000 away, 45 to 50,000 away in year one, and then another 40 to 50,000 in year two. And in year two, I put in, between 10 and 12 streetlights every 2 years.
That's all? 12 streetlights cost us $50,000?
By the time you put a bit of new wire and buy the poles and the streetlights,
Why can't we use the poles that are there?
the poles are actually the problem. They're rusting badly.
So, they obviously met our criteria when we put them in.
They're at least 30 years old.
So why are we putting in iron poles and not, aren't we better off putting in wooden poles?
Or aluminum.
They've changed the painting process in 30 years.
Okay. So,
They don't rust
if we
as
have to-
quick.
how many streetlights are in Quaker Village?
Oh, I'd have to get, I've done all of Quaker, done all of Quaker Village Drive, done from Quaker Village Drive almost to Center Road. I think there's 2 left there. So now I'm going into,
The internal streets.
Sims and, Carmody, mainly. I'm trying to do the first phase,
Of the-
the first phases were the worst. By the time you get to phase 6 up the hill, those streetlights will last a lot longer. But the ones in Testa are rusting as well.
Oh, we have 2 different wattages in there too, quite visible at night. Some is quite yellow and some are quite bright.
The bright white light will be an LED light that I've had to replace.
So these are, in Quaker Village, are LEDs? Okay.
Councillor Ballinger?
Yeah, I just wanna look at sidewalks, Main Street North, east side. How far are we going with that?
That should get us to John Harvey.
John Harvey Street, okay? Second thing,
Maybe a little further.
second thing is, and maybe it's on the wish list, Ben, but what about, Brock Street, from Quaker School up to the fire hall.
It's in the wish list, and Perry Street
Perry Street in the
now
wish
is
list,
in the wish
left.
list.
Thank you.
Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, Councillor Ballinger asked the first part of my question on the east side of Maine. Do you have any idea how much it would take from John Harvey up to, the fields of Uxbridge? Have you done a number on that?
It'd be a couple $100,000.
Could you run that prior to the end of budget?
Yeah.
Or if you had to phase that, where would you break it and how much would it be to do per section, that kind of thing? Because I think eventually we're gonna have to go up there, probably the
And
sooner
that,
the
but,
better.
but that's where we're sorta aiming to get to with the $60,000 a year. If council wants to get there faster, then
Well, there are
more money.
projects pending, as you know,
Yep.
for the fields. We need to have a readily accessible route on both sides of the road, so.
Yeah, but if you listen to the person that wrote such lovely emails to me or you on the weekend, God forbid that they have to walk up there. As I reminded her, when we put in Quaker, the arena and the ball diamonds and all that development, there was nothing there. And the people in the town said, oh, we don't want to walk that far to an arena.
We'll have to put a people walker or a people mover in for everybody.
Yeah, like, I'd like to move a few people out.
Councillor Barton?
So the sidewalks that we've been putting in are concrete. A lot of people are now talking asphalt is better for people in wheelchairs and because every time there's a transition, that according to some of the people that ride their scooters up and down Toronto Street, it's the bumping as they go over the sidewalk transitions that bothers them, which is why they drive down the middle of Toronto.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sorry, I need to
Go ahead.
to jump in here. That person has a death wish. Honest to God, anybody that would drive down the middle of Toronto Street on a scooter with those big trucks, the police have talked to them, and... But... I know. He's gonna get killed.
And I'm not...
And you know what? It isn't because it's that bumpy. Put a cushion under your arse. Oh, we're recorded, aren't we?
All right.
So,
Any other questions?
No, but that
well,
question hasn't been answered yet. So,
we always used to, what they called tool the joints, which makes it sort of thump, 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 thump. We've stopped that now, and we just saw cut.
okay.
Great.
Now, what about asphalt instead? What does that do?
Asphalt heaves and settles a lot more, and they're fine in a park-like setting, but they're not much good on the street.
Jack?
Just a comment. A number of years ago, we had a councillor that thought asphalt was a lot cheaper to do the sidewalks, and it was put on Reed Street, and they just about threw him out of town.
Okay, any other questions here? We gotta move on, everybody, so let's keep going. Any other questions on page 45? No other questions on 45? Let's go capital, this is 46. Oh, what's this one here? This is 2019 projects. Well, I just went to 19, I just flipped the page, next page over is 19. Any other questions? Keep going. You'll see the capital budget goes for a long way. I know most of us really, aren't looking beyond 20 or 21, that's kinda far enough. Go ahead.
Sure, I missed my cue there on the sweeper. Is this the one that you brought that report several weeks ago on?
Yeah, I have to bring
Yeah.
another report on that, so.
So is that in the budget or on the wish list? I'm not quite...
No, it's in the budget.
It's in the budget, okay, thanks.
2019 projects, any questions? No 2020 projects, any questions? 21? 22, any questions? Any questions going further? No? You got one at 25? Yeah, do not. All right. Anybody got one at 27? No. Okay. What else do we have to do? We're done now, eh? There's no more capital, no more... Quick question, Councillor Height, go ahead.
When you say road projects, are we talking about repaving, curbing the whole 9 yards, or are we just talking about surface treatment here? Like, for example, Milne Court, you've got here, 50,000. Is that just to resurface? Because I think we talked about this a couple of years ago, when the plow went around it, ripped out some of the curbs on some of those cul-de-sacs. Is the replacement part of that, or do we know?
It'd be in my, operating budget.
Operating? Okay, thanks.
All right, Ben, Bill, thank you. You want time out? All right, let's have a 10-minute break.
Councillor?
You want to ask a question? Actually, that's fine. Yeah, would you mind staying, Ben, Bill, for a sec? Go ahead, Roger.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Roger, ask a question.
I got a couple of questions, if I may.
Okay.
How many kilometres of sidewalk does the township maintain in the winter? Snow plowing and sanding, salting?
Do you have that answer?
There's 50 kilometers total in the whole municipality. We would... It's a little more complicated than just telling you the number, because we travel a fair distance, but we don't do everything. So we'll jump from one municipal property to the next, to the next, to the next. So we'll go up Bolton, we'll do in front of the park, we'll go across Quaker Village Drive, and there's a couple of entrances to the park, so we'll do those entrances. So we actually travel a lot further than
what you actually
we
do.
actually maintain.
So we don't know exactly, Roger.
Okay. On page 29, payroll burden is listed as a revenue, and yet on subsequent pages, the payroll burden is listed as an expenditure. Can you explain that?
This is in operating.
I'm sorry?
So I'll ask Donna to answer that question for you. Under overhead, Donna, I guess.
So on, page 29, you're showing the recovery, but then it's charged out to the other sub-areas of the Public Works Department budget.
It shows as income to that account, but it's actually coming from other accounts.
I'll fix you a little later on that one.
Okay.
And one, you mentioned the Fair Labor Practices Act.
Bill 148? Mm-hmm.
What did you say would be the...
Can you turn your mic on, Roger? Sorry. I didn't notice.
What did you say that Fair Labor Practices Act, what effect would that have on the budget?
$63,000 or 0.5% tax increase.
$63,000, that's
Yeah.
added to the budget?
Yes.
Overall,
Yeah.
not just the works.
Yeah, not Public Works, obviously. That's the whole township budget, right? And that's in the report that you've received, Roger.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Would you like to go up to the mic, please? Yes, please. And just let Debbie have your name and address and all that sort of thing.
It's Grant Baines, 1 Bolton Drive, Quaker Village. So I got a couple of things for you, Ben, since we're talking on the capital. Concession 6 is scheduled for rebuild, it looks like, in 2023 and 2025, depending on whether you're north or south of Davis Drive. I drove down that section today, and north of Davis Drive, the road's all broken up on the edge, but the traveled portion seems to be not too bad. South of Davis Drive, it's broken up basically in that right-hand, where that right-hand wheel would run down, whether it's northbound or southbound, it's all smashed up. And that road's not due to be repaired until 2025. That sounds awfully late considering the shape that road is in. So that kind of puzzled me. 2025, you want to repave Ball Road between 6th and Main Street. I think that was only done about 15 years ago. And so that seems to be a little early compared with other paving we want to do in the township. In fact, that comes after you want to pave Bolton and Quaker Village Drive in 2022. So I'm not quite sure how the priorities are all fitting together on all of these roads. 2019, you want to redo Colonel Sharp. What's the problem?
Maybe I could ask Ben to answer that for you now, so that
Yeah.
might answer a few of your roads
Yep,
questions.
there's a whole,
There is a policy. Ben, do you want to tell them sort of the policy on our good roads, keep our roads good and that sort of thing?
So, it's easier to keep the roads in good shape than it is to keep leaving everything until it breaks up and having to reconstruct it. So, the grind and pave like this year on Marion and Ewan, it's pretty simple. You go in, you grind it, you repave it, and it's good for another 20 or 25 years. Asphalt typically is good for 20 or 25 years. Surface treatment, probably 15. So, the budget gets adjusted every year if for some reason some of these roads completely break apart earlier than what it is now, then we'll bring them forward in subsequent years.
So financially, it's better to keep good roads good and keep them up to good. Some of the worst roads will fail until we catch up and replace them completely. And that's sort of the policy. That's how we deal with some of the roads. So sometimes we do see that. So we look at a road and you say, this road's terrible. And it has, because it's gone too far already. So it's just, the mathematics are, keep the good roads good, because that's the most efficient way to deal with them and the most viable way to deal with them. And then catch up with the bad roads. That's essentially the policy.
sounds like catch-up, but,
It is.
you know, in the meantime, we're breaking struts and springs and putting wheels out of alignment, and all sorts of other issues are happening there. The mayor was questioning about the huge increase in the cost of plowing from 9,000 or something to 22,000. It actually went from 3,000 if you went back to the 2016 figures. It was really bad. Do we have to plow these parking lots every time it snows? Can we wait a day and therefore not incur as frequently a cost, or we can use our own crews?
Ben?
There's a liability involved that we try to avoid.
Is
Slip
there
and falls are a big one that you try to avoid in parking lots. So that's why we do them every day, every time it snows.
Is there a standard set somewhere, though, that somebody, MTO or somebody suggests that what the minimum time might be that it would pass before it's not good?
The tender that we have, we're the ones that specify when they have to sort of get there and get it done. So, for example, the municipal parking lots here at the town office, they're supposed to be done by 8:30, 8 o'clock or 8:30, before people start to come in, before staff start to come in. The arena, for example, anything sort of in the front half towards Brock Street has to be done by 6 o'clock, because they start some rentals at 6. The back part can wait until afternoon.
Okay.
So it has a lot to do with liability.
Go ahead, Grant, you have another
Have we
question?
tested that in some manner, or are we just scared?
Oh, no, we've
Yeah.
tested it
Yeah?
many times. Not many times, but
It would be nice if we could get through one winter without being sued multi-times. Hmm?
Keep your mic on there,
It's not
Grant.
gonna happen.
There you
Sorry.
go.
Yeah, it just surprises me that somebody would come forward, or numbers of people would come forward that frequently to
Many people.
sue.
Many.
Many people, is it?
Many.
Yeah?
Yes.
Measured in like dozens?
I don't think it's
maybe
double
not,
digit,
maybe
close.
not dozens, but
Yeah?
I would say in the winter months, we would probably get one every 10 days.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Grant, do you have another question?
No, thank you at this point.
Great, thank you. All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Ben.
Under salaries and wages, Phil, with the amount of activity that we've seen in this last quarter, that 146,173, I'm sure is going to, surpass the 157? Or do you think it'll still come in under budget?
So that's just the administrative salaries, so the ones regarding incidents?
Oh, I'm
is
sorry,
in the
right.
firefighting.
Okay, so, all right,
Connor, keep in mind that we do have a reserve for the fire department in case things do go out of whack,
okay.
and that would cover it.
I have a question on 17, if we're,
Does anybody have questions on 16? Councilor Balfour, your hand up for 16 or 17?
Well, I was just looking at, and I was actually on 15, just asking about the maintenance and supplies.
Well, it's coming up.
Okay.
It's coming up. The application's coming up. Any questions on 16, administrative, Councilor Barton?
Yeah, just one on salaries and wages, Chief. How many people does that support?
That's myself and the administrative staff, one shared position.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, page 17, firefighting. You're
is under, external protection purchases. And where does that, it's 160,000 for
So those are
Fort
purchases.
Perry and, or I mean,
purchased East Gwillimbury and Stouffville.
Stouffville?
Yes.
Okay. And under equipment maintenance, what does that, 'cause we're a long way from the amount that's been budgeted, so what all is carried in that?
So that's separate from vehicles, that's all the firefighting equipment, small engines, everything. And this, keep in mind also there's some more invoices that come in between this time and the end of the year.
Okay, so equipment maintenance under this is what then?
It'd be small engines,
Small engine?
fire hose, positive pressure ventilator, fans, anything that requires service to be placed back in service.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Any other questions on 17? Sorry. The fire budget's pretty straightforward, actually. But, no questions on communications. Let's go to 19. You want on communications?
Just
Councilor Hyatt?
under equipment, Chief, you've got 10,000 for this year. Is there a radio buy or something in there?
There was anticipated there might be a radio buy, but there hasn't been. We did have spend some money transferring the radio equipment from the old pumper to the new pumper. That was involved in that.
That's what that is. All right, thanks.
Okay, page 20. This is fire hall maintenance supplies.
Just a quick question on hydro.
Are you on 19, Mayor O'Connor? Or are you
No, I'm on
20?
20.
Okay.
20, under, the hydro, last year we budgeted, 7,000 and we're already up to 14,000. Is that the difference between, Viridian and Ontario Hydro when we moved?
Well, there's two factors. First, there is a increase in usage because we're in a bigger building, but also for all of the fire hall maintenance and supplies, we're funding both buildings, the old and the new, still through this account. So that's hopefully, the treasurer can explain sometime at the end of the year or on the sale of the building, some of these costs are going to be backed out. But presently, we're operating both the old station and the new station.
Okay, so I guess to you, Donna, why wouldn't we keep a separate account for the old fire hall?
think we thought we would have it gone by now.
Yep, we thought we'd have it gone by now, but what I will do at the end of the year is I will pull out the old fire hall cost, and I'll separate them. But I have looked at we have been looking at how the new fire hall is tracking, and I'm comfortable with the numbers for, 2018 for water, hydro, and heating. So we've taken a really good look at those numbers.
Okay, so then we can expect to see a sheet on the old fire hall. And why are we charging that to fire versus to, township-owned property?
It was just categorized that way for so long, that fire hall was in this budget, and that's why Donna left it there, because we thought it would have been gone.
Right, but if if we still have that fire hall for the next 6 months,
Yeah.
as an example, I don't think fire should be charged for that.
No,
I
she's
think
gonna
it should
take
be.
it out. As soon as we're finished the budget, she's gonna separate it and put it
Okay.
on its own, in its own account. So it's not, it won't
Okay.
reflect in the fire budget in the future.
Thank you.
Quick question for you, Chief.
Brian?
In regard to, security services, do we still have a security system on the old fire hall? Or is it completely open?
Can you turn your mic on, Chief, please?
There is a system there for security and for fire, but it's not monitored.
Okay.
It was monitored through the phone lines, and the phone lines were taken out to move to the new.
Okay, and the only reason I'm thinking about this now is that we started sorting for the toy drive, and all the toys are in there for the kids. And I wanna make sure that there's some sort of thing so no kids bust in through the window. There's
Maybe we
nothing.
could get the portable cameras over there.
I'm just thinking something, because there's all those toys for those children, and it would be awful if somebody broke into the old fire
Good
hall.
idea.
Because you can see them, because they're in the bay doors, right?
So I'm not sure what the arrangement is with the, I'll call them tenants, but I don't know if they know how to set the alarm or not. It's probably turned off so people can come and go.
Okay.
But we do have the portable cameras, and maybe we could consider that out. I think Bob.
It's only gonna be for,
Yeah, Bob.
and when we were
Bob
there
could
last night, I
maybe
didn't
set
think it
that up.
punched in. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe Jack could ask Bob to set that up. Could we do that, Jack? Bob, I think, has the, portable cameras. Maybe, great. Already, page 21, any other questions? This page is intentionally left blank. Off the capital now, Don? What's that? Okay. So now we're going to the back of the book. Gray pages again.
Hey, Pat,
Do you
sorry.
have a question?
I wanna go back to the page where it has the wages for all of our firefighters. That is page 17. Just, again, tracking on our budget this year, are we gonna have to dip into our reserves on that? I believe that's is that under local fire costs?
Firefighting. Local
Yes,
fire
so
costs.
we pay, payroll goes out at the end of each quarter, so, I mean, I could get a closer number, but we're tracking on that. Right now, we're 13 more incidents now than the same period last year. We've had some significant incidents in, November, but we should still be in that same range.
Well, okay.
Quick question, Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, just on the lighting, Chief, we talked about the baffling and stuff. Is that reflected anywhere in this
The lighting's on the wish list.
wish list?
Okay, so we're in capital, page 28, sort of the back of the book, right after the orange pages, gray pages, 28. Connor?
Under funding of fire apparatus, okay, these funds are placed in a reserve and are not, and are used to fund fire apparatus expenditures. So, what did we borrow from?
We borrowed from that reserve.
We borrowed from that reserve?
Yeah, we've been putting we started with $200,000 and it goes up by inflation every year. That's why the amount's changing every year as we go forward. And we've been let's just use $200,000, put $200,000 away every year. So I think until 2020, we're still dipping in, and then after that, we start building the reserve again. Is that pretty close?
Okay. And what are we buying for $70,500 this year?
In 18, that's on page 28, Mayor O'Connor's looking at the $28,000, the $70,500
Yeah,
under fire equipment in 18.
yeah.
So this is about,
Pardon me?
on page 29 is a list of the projects that we have
Oh,
moving
sorry.
forward. So those are, individual small projects, with one large project there. Do you want me to describe each of these? Personal protective equipment is replacement of, bunker gear, et cetera, mentioned before. Next gen radio system is a potential, refresh of the system-wide. That will be our share of software and hardware if it needs to be refreshed. Positive pressure ventilation is a piece of equipment, ventilation fans, particularly useful for large buildings or either taller buildings or larger buildings to move smoke out of a building. The traffic preemption is 2 intersections, it says Davis and Concession 6, but it's Davis Drive and the 7th concession, and Concession 6 and Regional Road 47, where there's traffic preemption, but it no longer functions because of the relocation of the station. We won't approach the intersection from the same direction anymore, so it has to be changed. And we have another project for 2019 that we pushed out in the traffic preemption. Water softener is to try and slow down some of the deterioration already in the new station regarding the hard water on the equipment and glasses and the plumbing fixture, and the glass, not glasses, windows, trucks, plumbing fixtures are already showing signs of wear and tear because of the hard water. Thermal imaging cameras are, we have 3, 1 for each pumper, and they have, they're already 2 years past their life cycle, and can't replace the batteries. Can't replace the batteries anymore, so they're becoming non-functional. The port account face fit testing machine is actually a joint project put forward with Scugog Fire Department. We have to annually test firefighters for fit for their SCBA masks as well as for their medical masks, and we currently tender that, or take that project out to a third party. And
that's 53,000. Okay.
It's 5, but the Scugog put forth a suggestion that they would share the cost of that with Brock and Uxbridge, and that would be our share, 5,000, and that would be a payback of about two years' time, the money we tender out for testing now. The fire hall water main is a large project. It wasn't anticipated. And then the firefighting apparatus reserve was the fund that Councillor Malloy mentioned.
Questions on projects? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, can you explain the the fire hall water main?
Actually, I can't. I can tell you what the presently we don't have a sufficient water supply in the new station to operate, to fill or to recharge or train with the fire apparatus. The water service that is there now is fed from the high pressure zone on the street Whitfield behind, and it is sufficient to supply the domestic water in the fire station, like all the houses up there, and the fire suppression system for the station itself. But in terms of conducting the business of the fire department off-site, we don't have a way to fill the trucks, etc., without causing some distress to the region. So we're trying to work with them to find a solution. Hopefully that final cost will be somehow shared with them.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Other questions on projects?
I just think
Mayor
that you
O'Connor.
should also know that there's dialogue going between the region and ourselves over that particular cost. It's something that goes back to the time when we were building, and there was some communication came out that what happened and what was suggested and what happened are 2 different things. And every time the water gets low in the
Pumping station.
museum, in the pump station, okay, somebody from the region has to come because it sends off an alarm, and somebody has to come to the region, from the region, and reset it all. So they need to update that well, the equipment in the well, or equipment running the well. So our stand is that we shouldn't be paying $100% for that, that we will share the cost. Okay.
Okay. Questions on page 30? These are 2019 projects. Pretty straightforward. And we just keep going. Any questions going further? No questions on 2027, Jack? We're all right?
I just ask how many calls we've had this year?
We're about 290 now.
290?
What was it last year, 316 or something? What was it?
Yes.
Yeah. I lost the pool, that's how I remember.
What pool?
Councillor Barton, you have a question?
Yeah, and how many of those were fires this year?
About 10% of the calls are actual structure fires. And our numbers are pretty stable from year to year. Even the number of fires, going back 25 years, even though the call volume goes up and down, the actual number of fires is the same. Now this November, we've had 6 structure fires, and we had 4 in, April. And in between, there really hasn't been much in the terms of a structure fire, so it's unexplainable. I can't tell you why that happens, but,
I think in 16 there were 4 in total maybe even. It wasn't very many in 16, so this has been a tough year, that's for sure. Any other questions of the chief? Any other questions of the capital budget?
Looks good.
No other questions?
Good.
Thank you very much, chief. Tonight is the Christmas party for the fire department, and the chief's buying dinner for anybody that shows up over there, so. Do we have any questions, Grant, before the chief leaves? Would you like, you all right? We're done for the day, right? We're finished? Do you want to do any more little ones, or you want to go home? We're done what was scheduled for today.
Well, I haven't done any homework, so
Okay.
I...
got a long day tomorrow at the region.
Okay.
Have you read your agenda?
So we'll see you back here Thursday.
I'm actually going through finance again because it's so long and so much in that, I can't believe it. Wow. It's gonna be a long day tomorrow.
So, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I give you that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ballinger.
I have to go to the region tonight. Yeah.